The news hit hard. In a shocking turn of events, Elon Musk's Starlink now faces catastrophic losses, over $500 billion in global contracts. The satellite internet provider, once hailed as SpaceX's golden goose, is rapidly losing deals across multiple continents as countries cancel partnerships and redirect investments elsewhere. The big question on everyone's mind is simple. What sparked this storm of political tensions and controversial decisions now threatening to derail Musk's vision for Starlink? In this video, we'll answer that question and reveal whether Musk is poised for yet another remarkable comeback or facing one of the most staggering failures in tech history. Let's dive in. Overview of Starlink's global contracts. Starlink has been busy making deals all around the world to bring internet to places that don't have good connections. These contracts are super important for the company's future. Let's look at where Starlink has been setting up shop and which deals might be in trouble. Starlink's biggest contracts are spread across different continents. In Europe, they've partnered with countries like Germany and the United Kingdom to provide internet to rural areas where regular internet cables don't reach. These deals are worth hundreds of millions of dollars and were supposed to help connect farmers, small villages, and people living in remote mountain regions. In Asia, Starlink had huge contracts with Japan, South Korea, and parts of India. The Japanese government wanted to use Starlink to keep communication going during earthquakes and tsunamis when regular internet often goes down. In South Korea, the military was interested in using Starlink for secure communications. Africa has been another major focus for Starlink. Countries like Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa signed agreements to bring internet to schools, hospitals, and communities that have never had reliable connections before. These contracts weren't just business deals. They were meant to help millions of people access online education, healthcare information, and job opportunities for the first time. Starlink also had big plans in South America, especially in Brazil and Argentina, where vast rainforests and mountain ranges make it hard to build traditional internet infrastructure. Governments there were excited about connecting remote indigenous communities and monitoring environmental changes in real time. The company even secured contracts with cruise ship companies, airlines, and shipping businesses to provide internet on the open seas and in the air. These deals alone were worth billions over the next decade. What makes these contracts so valuable isn't just the money. Each satellite launched helps Starlink build a more complete network around the Earth. More customers mean more satellites, which means better service for everyone using the system. But now, many of these deals are at risk. Some countries are backing out because of concerns about Starlink having too much control over their communications. Others are worried about the growing number of satellites in space and how they might affect astronomy and create space junk. A few countries have found cheaper alternatives from competing satellite internet companies. The timing couldn't be worse for Starlink. They've already launched thousands of satellites, built ground stations around the world, and hired teams to manage these global projects. All that costs money they were counting on getting back through these long-term contracts. If these deals really do collapse, the financial consequences for Starlink and SpaceX could be catastrophic. Financial impact on Starlink and SpaceX. The numbers tell a brutal story. The loss of $500 billion in global contracts hit Starlink and SpaceX like a meteor strike. This wasn't just a small setback, it was a financial earthquake that shook the very foundation of Elon Musk's space empire. Let's break down what this massive loss actually means. When a company loses contracts worth $500 billion, it's not just losing money today, it's losing years of future income. Think of it like this: if you were counting on getting an allowance for the next 10 years, and suddenly your parents said, sorry, no more allowance ever, you'd have to completely rethink how you spend your money. Starlink's monthly revenue took a nosedive. Before these contracts fell through, the company was bringing in millions from customers around the world who paid for their satellite internet service. Now, with fewer customers signing up and some big government deals canceled, their money stream slowed to a trickle in many regions. The company had to slam the brakes on their ambitious plans. SpaceX had scheduled dozens of rocket launches to put thousands more Starlink satellites into orbit. Each launch costs around $67 million, about the price of 335 brand new cars. With less money coming in, they had to cancel or delay many of these launches. Investors started getting nervous too. When a company loses big contracts, people who put money into the company start wondering if they made a mistake. Some investors pulled their money out, making it harder for Starlink to raise new funds. funds. The company's value dropped by billions almost overnight. This financial trouble spread to other parts of SpaceX as well. Money that would have gone toward developing the Starship rocket, their massive vehicle designed to eventually take people to Mars, had to be redirected to keep Starlink afloat. Engineers and technicians who were hired to build and maintain satellites faced layoffs as the company tried to cut costs. The ripple effects touched everything from research and development to customer service. New features and improvements for the Starlink internet service were put on hold. The company had to scale back plans for expanding into new countries. Their customer support team shrank, leading to longer wait times for people having problems with their service. For Elon Musk personally, this meant his net worth took a serious hit, since he owns a large chunk of SpaceX. When the company's value drops, so does his personal wealth. Some estimates suggested he lost tens of billions of dollars on paper. The company had to get creative to survive this financial storm. They raised the monthly price for Starlink service in some areas. They looked for new ways to use their satellite network, like offering special services to shipping companies and airlines. They even considered selling some of their technology to other companies, something they'd avoided in the past. Despite these efforts, the road to recovery looked long and bumpy. Wall Street analysts predicted it would take years for Starlink to rebuild its financial strength. Some even questioned whether the satellite internet business would ever be as profitable as Musk had promised investors. The dream of using Starlink's profits to fund a city on Mars seemed further away than ever. Instead of focusing on that far future goal, SpaceX now had to concentrate on simply keeping the lights on and the satellites flying. And as the financial pressure mounted, another storm was brewing. One even money couldn't easily fix. Political and regulatory challenges. Starlink's troubles didn't just come from technical problems or business mistakes. A big part of their $500 billion loss happened because of government rules, political fights, and international disagreements. Countries around the world have their own rules about who can provide internet service to their citizens. Many governments were worried about letting an American company like Starlink control internet access in their countries. They feared the US government might be able to spy on their people or have too much power over their communications. In India, for example, officials demanded that Starlink get special licenses before offering service. When Starlink tried to take pre-orders without these licenses, the Indian government stepped in and blocked them. This caused Starlink access to over 1 billion potential customers. China, with its massive population, completely banned Starlink. The Chinese government, which tightly controls internet access, saw Elon Musk's satellite network as a threat to their control of information. This single decision cut off Starlink from the world's largest market. Russia also rejected Starlink after initially showing interest. When the war in Ukraine started and Starlink provided internet service to Ukrainian forces, Russian leaders saw this as Musk taking sides. They canceled all potential deals and even threatened to target Starlink satellites. Tariffs created another huge problem. Many countries put extra taxes on Starlink equipment coming into their borders. These tariffs made Starlink's dishes and receivers much more expensive for customers. In Brazil, import taxes nearly doubled the price of Starlink equipment, making it too expensive for most people. Spectrum rights caused headaches too. To operate satellites, companies need permission to use certain radio frequencies. In several countries, local telecom companies fought against giving Starlink access to these frequencies, claiming it would interfere with their services or that Starlink should pay huge fees to use them. The European Union created its own set of challenges. They demanded that Starlink follow strict data privacy rules that were different from American standards. Changing their system to meet these requirements cost millions and delayed service rollouts across Europe. Some countries also required that Starlink store all user data within their borders or give their governments access to user information. Musk refused these demands in several nations, saying they violated user privacy, which led to more lost contracts. International organizations like the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, also slowed Starlink down with lengthy approval processes. Getting permission to operate in certain orbital slots took years longer than Musk had planned. Political tensions between the US and other countries spilled over onto Starlink too. When relations between America and countries like Venezuela or Iran worsened, those nations canceled talks with Starlink as a way to punish the US. Even Musk's own controversial statements on X hurt Starlink's chances. When he made political comments that angered leaders in countries like Turkey and Saudi Arabia, they responded by canceling or delaying Starlink approvals. All these political and regulatory roadblocks combined to create a perfect storm that cost Starlink hundreds of billions in potential contracts around the world, but the fallout didn't stop with canceled contracts and regulatory headaches. The world was watching and reacting. Global reactions and market response. When Starlink lost these huge contracts worth about $500 billion, the stock markets around the world took notice right away. Starlink's parent company SpaceX, though not publicly traded, saw its private valuation drop by nearly 15% according to industry experts. Major investment firms like Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs quickly changed their outlook on the space internet sector. They warned their clients that the space internet gold rush might be cooling down. One analyst wrote, "The loss of these contracts shows that governments and big companies are becoming more careful about putting all their eggs in one basket." In Europe, the reaction was mixed. The European Space Agency saw an opportunity to promote their own satellite internet projects. France and Germany announced increased funding for their joint satellite program, seeing a chance to fill the gap Starlink left behind. The European Union even fast-tracked approval for a competing satellite network. Asian markets responded differently. In Japan, SoftBank, which had invested heavily in Starlink, saw its stock drop by 7% in a single day. Meanwhile, Chinese companies like China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation gained value as investors bet they might win some of the contracts Starlink lost. Starlink's competitors didn't waste any time. Amazon's Project Kuiper immediately reached out to countries that had canceled Starlink contracts. OneWeb, another satellite internet provider, announced plans to launch 200 additional satellites, specifically targeting regions where Starlink lost ground. The telecommunications industry also shifted. AT&T and Verizon, which had partnership deals with Starlink for remote area coverage, started looking at other options. Verizon's CEO stated in a press conference, "We need reliable partners for our long-term plans. We're exploring all possibilities." In developing nations where Starlink had promised to bring internet to remote areas, there was real disappointment. A government official in Kenya said, "We were counting on this technology to connect our rural schools and hospitals. Now we have to start over with someone else." The space launch industry felt the impact too. Since Starlink launches made up almost half of SpaceX's rocket launches, other rocket companies like Rocket Lab and Ariane saw increased interest from satellite companies looking for alternative ways to get to space. Tech giants reacted as well. Google, which had cloud computing partnerships with SpaceX, quietly began exploring deals with other satellite providers. Microsoft stepped up its own space-related projects, seeing an opening in the market. Wall Street analysts started questioning whether the satellite internet business model was as solid as everyone thought. One report from JP Morgan noted, "The profit margins may be thinner than previously estimated, especially with increasing competition and regulatory hurdles." By the end of the first week after the news broke, the space industry landscape looked noticeably different. New partnerships were forming, funding was shifting, and everyone was watching to see what would happen next. The loss of these contracts didn't just hurt Starlink financially, it changed how the entire industry operated and how investors viewed the future of space internet. With the dust still settling, one question loomed large. Could Starlink and SpaceX recover from this, or was this the beginning of the end? Future outlook for Starlink and SpaceX. Despite the major setbacks with lost contracts, Starlink and SpaceX still have several paths forward. The road ahead won't be easy, but there are reasons to believe these companies might bounce back. First, let's look at some recovery strategies. SpaceX could focus on improving their satellite technology to make it more appealing to countries that backed out of deals. They might work on making their satellites smaller, more powerful, or less expensive to launch. By showing that they've fixed the problems that scared away customers, they could win back trust. Starlink could also expand into new markets. While they've lost ground in some countries, there are still many places around the world where internet access is limited. Rural areas and developing nations might become their new target customers. These communities often have no internet at all, so even basic service would be a huge improvement for them. Another opportunity lies in disaster response. When hurricanes, earthquakes, or floods knock out regular internet, Starlink could provide emergency connections. We've already seen this work during natural disasters and in war zones like Ukraine, where Starlink kept people connected when regular systems failed. The company might also partner with airlines, cruise ships, and remote research stations that need reliable internet in places where traditional connections don't reach. Imagine being able to use good internet while flying over the ocean or sailing in the middle of nowhere. For the long term, SpaceX and Starlink will need to rebuild their reputation. The angry tweets and public outbursts from Elon Musk didn't help their image with government customers. They might need to show more professionalism and reliability to win back big contracts. The satellite internet market is getting more crowded too. Companies like Amazon's Project Kuiper, OneWeb, and others are launching their own satellite networks. This competition means Starlink can't just rely on being the only option anymore. They need to be the best option. SpaceX's rocket business remains strong, which could help support Starlink through tough times. Their Falcon 9 rockets keep launching successfully, and the Starship program, while behind schedule, could revolutionize space travel if it works as planned. This gives the company multiple ways to make money while Starlink rebuilds. Looking 5 years ahead, we might see a very different Starlink. It could become more focused on specific markets rather than trying to serve everyone everywhere. They might find their sweet spot providing internet to transportation companies, remote businesses, and emergency services. The $500 billion in lost contracts definitely hurts, but it doesn't necessarily mean the end for Starlink. Many successful companies have faced huge setbacks before finding their way. The key will be learning from these mistakes, improving their technology, and rebuilding trust with customers. For SpaceX as a whole, diversification will be crucial. By not putting all their eggs in the Starlink basket, they can weather storms like this one. Their work on Starship, satellite launches for other companies, and NASA contracts provides multiple income streams. The coming years will be challenging, but with the right moves, both Starlink and SpaceX could emerge stronger than before. Just perhaps with more realistic goals and a more focused approach to the satellite internet business.